Hey everyone, we're checking out a game called Automation. This is a car manufacturer tycoon game where you get to build your own cars, own engines and sell them. This is of particular interest to us as tuners because it has an engine dyno and an engine designer simulator in it. Now, it's not going to teach you everything, but let's try and see if we can find out anything useful about engine design from it. So here we are in our engine dyno room. We get to choose our engine family type. Let's start off with an inline 4-cylinder. Just a traditional cast iron block. 86 by 86, your traditional square 2-litre engine. We're going to have dual overhead cam. Let's do 16 valves, so 4 valves per cylinder, aluminium cylinder head. We're not going to do variable valve lift. Let's have a look at doing a cast iron crank, cast con rods, and cast pistons. So let's move on. Engine compression. So we're going to start off with a reasonably high compression, 10:1. And a normal road cam profile. We're not going to have variable valve timing yet. I'm going to keep it NA for now. Injection. We're going to do multi-point injection EFI per cylinder. Just a standard intake. And we're going to start off with regular 95 RON fuel we get in this country. And our air fuel ratio leave alone for now, ignition timing leave alone, and road emitter. Then you get to choose your exhaust headers. So you want a cast log manifold, short cast tubular, long tubular or race tubular. We get to choose our exhaust diameter, no catalytic converter, we're going to have a performance silencer, and we get our result. And what it is telling us is our engine is going to make 130 horsepower, which is pretty poor from a 2-litre engine. But we're making a nice flat 130 foot-pounds, which is pretty reasonable from a 2-litre engine. So, moving on, we get to colour our engine if we wish to, but again, it doesn't help us let in tuning. Let's test our engine. So we get to do a pull on the engine dyno. We get to see various different parameters here. So nothing here is restricting us. We're not getting knock, we're getting no valve float, we're having no issues with our components being not strong enough, and no restrictions here. So what can we do to improve power on a 2-litre NA engine? Well, first of all, I noticed that we're only revving to 5,800. So let's come back over to here. Let's bring it up to a more traditional 6,500 RPM. And let's have another look now. Go away to the end, we can do another automatic test again. A little bit more power maybe, but not a lot. So how can we improve our engine? Well, let's go back over to here. We're running a 10:1 compression, which is pretty high. We have no VVT, no VVL. We are still running NA. So let's look at the options here. Let's richen the mixture up a little bit. I'd expect an NA engine to run sort of 12.5, and indeed if we go rich to the next, start saying, oh, warning, you're running too rich. So let's set our AFE ratio 12.5. Now also we can add some ignition timing to the map. You can't actually map on this simulator, but you do get a sort of global aggression, shall we say, to your ignition timing. And as you can see, adding ignition time to a point gains power, but it gets to a point where actually we're hitting MBT and we're starting to lose power. So let's back it down again. About there. We're still climbing power at top end, so let's bring it out to maybe 7,000 RPM where we're finally starting to arc over. So we're now hitting 143 horsepower. Still a little on the low side for your traditional 2-litre engine. I'd expect you to get 150, 160 horsepower. So what can we do? How about we look at doing a bit more of the cam profile. So there you go, we're 151 horsepower, 155 horsepower, and we can keep getting more aggressive on the cam. We can bring up to a sports cam, all work to a race cam, and now we're doing 184 horsepower. But look what's happened to the bottom end of our power curve. We've lost all our bottom end torque, and this is a great thing about this game, is it gives you not only the power figures but the area under the curve. And you can see we can bring the cam right down to the point that we only make 80 horsepower, but how much torque do we make down low? And this is kind of the thing you need to explore when you start developing an engine, is that are you building an engine to be responsive down low, a balance of both, or super peaky for a race engine where you're always over, you know, always near red line all the time? That might be good on a track car, but it's no good for a road car. You might compromise on a semi-performance vehicle and have something like this. You lose a little bit of low end response, but you gain more power. Or you might go something more like this when you have a cam suiting a road car where you get good torque, good response, good idle characteristics, but you'll sacrifice in power. So let's try and tune for 150 horsepower. Something like that. Going through again. What else can we look at? Any more ignition advance we can put in there? Not really. We're kind of maximising there. Can we do anything with the air-fuel ratio? Not really. We're kind of optimised there. We could probably go a bit higher in the RPM limiter now. We're getting our first warning here about engine stress on engine components. Now, in theory, we can run this through and it should work. But how long will it last is the question. Watch our components here. And what it's telling us is that our pistons and conrods might not be able to cope with the RPM we're doing, whether that's the pins in the pistons and around the piston skirts struggling, or the conrod bolts, or the conrod material. The game doesn't really tell you, but it does give you an indication that you need to improve those components. So let's have a look at a lightweight forged conrod and a forged piston. So go back to here, we can run our engine through on a dyno again. And we're seeing no stress. We did see a tiny bit of exhaust restriction here. So let's go play with our exhaust. We are currently on a 50mm exhaust, that's tiny. How about we do at least a 2.5 inch system? Not really gained much. How about a 3-inch system? 4-inch system? We're actually losing power, and that's quite realistic because you're actually seeing the fact that bigger balls on any engines have a slower velocity and less scavenging effect. So bigger is not always better. Another good thing that this game teaches you. We seem to find the optimal exhaust for this setup here is probably around a 2-inch exhaust. We do have different headers we can put on, which again you can see how different exhaust manifolds will affect your power curve. A cast log manifold makes excellent torque, but you're really sacrificing 40 horsepower there. A typical road going cast manifold, you're losing 10 horsepower, but you are gaining a bit more. Tubulars, again losing a bit of torque to gain some more power. A long tubular or a race tubular. So let's have a look what else we can do. Intakes. So if we have a look at our engine here on its dyno, it has a fairly standard little flat box intake. Nice looking tubular manifold though. Let's try the other intake options on here. Got a performance intake. For race, we can go individual throttle bodies. But how does this affect our power curve? So we can see about a 10 horsepower gain from our race intake, but we do lose some torque. On our race intake and our large exhaust, what happens if we change our ignition timing now? Ooh, we are getting some more gains. Here we go, being more aggressive on ignition timing. That's the max we can go there. Anything on air-fuel ratio? No, pretty good there. We could probably rev a little bit higher, make a bit more of a usable range. And let's have a look what else we can do here. Not a major amount right now. Maybe play with the cam profile. Here we go. we're going now. We're getting to a much more racy engine here, but you can see we've sacrificed so much low end power. We should be able to also raise the robustness on this engine now. How about 8,000 revs? Let's have a look. That ride sounds a bit poor. Bit of exhaust friction there again, top end. We're making more power now, so let's look at our exhaust again. Probably want to go to a 2.5 inch, over a 2 inch. You can see there, big gains in power. But again, going to 3 inch doesn't really help you. 2.5 inch, 2.75 inch, it's enough for this sort of engine. So what else can we do? If we were to make our cam a bit racier again, we could really rev this thing now. 230 horsepower. How high can we take this? 240 horsepower NA power. But look at the torque, it's been decimated down the bottom. If I bring this down to a normal cam, you can see, look, huge losses, 40% losses down the bottom. But we're done with being a road car now. Let's have a look what we can do as a race engine. Any more gains to have on the exhaust there? Not really. But no harm in having 3 inch now. We're fully advanced on the timing. We could probably rev it right out now to 8.5. Yeah, 8.5. Oh dear, so now our pistons and our crank can't cope. So let's modify our bottom end. We'll have a forged steel crank, lightweight forged pistons, heavy duty forged rods, no, forged titanium rods, there we go, no problem. Let's run our engine again. It really struggles to idle now, but it should absolutely sing top end. There we go, loads of power. So how would you have a high power engine but not lose all your bottom end torque? Well, we can come back to our engine design here. We can say we've got variable valve lift, so it's effectively VTEC. So here's our cam profile. We could have a nice sports cam at the bottom, but meanwhile still have our race cam at the top. So that's the pure race cam. You can see how much torque we lost, but we can play around with our variable cam lift, find a cam profile something like this, and you might recognise this shape if you've ever seen a Type R graph. You get nice flat torque, and then suddenly as VTEC kicks you'll get this build of extra torque and then power will shoot up. So we can play with our variable valve lift. We could also move our car down, our cam down, should we say. So that's a pretty nice power curve. 240 horsepower and a nice transition on the torque. Much nicer to drive and still gives you good power. Let's test our engine again. Idle's a lot better now. Much better. So that's for play. What else can we do? What happens if we raise our compression ratio up? 10.5 to 1. Oh, we've lost all our power. Why is that? We're hitting engine knock, which means the ignition timing has to be retarded by the ECU to prevent the engine from failing. How can we fix that? We either have to pull timing out of the map, so by reducing our ignition timing, We've got a little bit more power. Or potentially we can richen the mixture. Or we can boost the octane rating of our fuel. And this is the most common thing you do on the road. This is why all tuners say run your Shell V power, because that octane rating is what resists knock. It doesn't give any power, but it stops you losing power. And so all these concepts in this game are explained for someone who's new to tuning, someone who doesn't really know that much about engines or engine tuning, but wants to learn what all the components do. This is a good way of starting. It's not going to teach you a proper tune overnight, because you can't map things, but it really helps you understand how changes affect the engine's power and power curves. So where are we at? Still can't win the exhausts. Well, we're kind of maxed out on this engine, so let's have some fun and bolt on a turbocharger. Here we go, here's our turbo system. Now we can change the intercooler size. We can have preset turbos, fuel economy based turbo, performance turbo, race turbo. We can do ball bearings, journal bearings. We can also limit the maximum boost. We can also set our AR ratio. Let's see. Let's pick a performance-based turbo. Maximum boost to 0.99 bar. It'll be a journal bearing. So look at our power graph, and now you can see our torque comes on nice and hard, and our power is a lot more flatter now. But we're making no power at all, and why is that? Because we're knocking. We've already got to our maximum type of fuel. One option is to pull all our timing out. We've pulled out so much timing now, we're actually making no more power than we were when we were NA. So that's no good. Let's put our time back in. How would you really fix this in real life? Well, the game simulates it right. You would run a lower compression ratio. Our typical turbo engine might be 8.5 to 1. We've definitely restricted our engine by being turbocharged. By reducing it to a turbo engine, we've now got a lower compression, which means we only make 190 horsepower, not 240 anymore. So we have to make up for that loss with more boost. So let's start bringing some boost in there. Now what's happening here, we're getting into knock and we're getting a flat power curve. That means something's restricted. And what it probably means is our turbo just isn't big enough. So let's try bring it up to a race size turbo. Much better. Much better. So, still making the old sort of torque, but even more power top end. Playing the ignition timing. We also want to enrich our mixture probably, because we now want to boost. And it does sort of show you in real life 11.5 is where you want to be. Going overly rich does cost you power. That's sort of quite accurate to real life. So let's run this. Did see some restriction in our intercooler. Let's have a look at our intercooler. Let's make it bigger. Ooh, here we go. Now we're getting some engine knock, getting some airflow going. Fuel's already maxed out. Our air fuel ratio is pretty decent. Our next option is potentially to reduce ignition timing. There you go. Huge gain in power. Let's run this again. There we go. So yeah, this is a pretty decent little game. It shows the idea of why you uprate components. It will show you the effect on bore and stroke. So for example, if we were to come out here and de-stroke the engine, you can see the engine is smaller. If we bring it back up to about 2 litres again, you'll see the power curves in a different place. If we were to make it a longer stroke engine and bring the bore size down, you can see the effects on the torque curve and how the engine would run. But let's stick with 86 by 86 for now. Let's play a VVT. So we've got variable valve timing on all cams versus none. Pick up some more down the bottom. What can we do with our cam profile? How about a bigger turbocharger? You can see the effects of exhaust housing AR, how it will affect your spool up versus your power all available. You're already small AR, you get good spool, but you sacrifice power. You have a massive AR, you'll get loads of power, but you really sacrifice spool. And maximum boost pressure. What happens with NA? Then we start adding boost. See, when a turbo is not maxed out, you get quite a light upward trajectory in power. As the turbo starts to max out, you end up getting more of a flat arc over. As you can see, arcs over. "360 horsepower. That's not bad. I really like the effect on the exhaust manifold in this game when you get it hot on the dyno. If you do manual testing and hold it, it really starts to get really hot and blow well. Yellow. Now wheel it off. It's quite accurate how it fades back to normal metal colour. Pretty realistic, that. Alright, let's try something different. Let's try doing a 60 degree or a 90 degree V10 aluminium block. And we'll have how about an 88mm bore? Maybe bring the stroke down a little bit. 78, 79. Let's bring the bore out a bit. .2 litres, just like you get a Lamborghini. Aluminium head. Let's bring the compression right up to 10.5. A nice normal cam. Nice normal cam, no variable valve lift. No turbocharging. Fuel system, bring it back up to 12.5. Loads timing, rev limiter 8,900, 9,000. Direct injection. Exhausts, dual exhaust, dual 3-inch, tubular manifolds. What are we complaining about? Engine has failed due to valve float. It's interesting. Try reducing RPM limiter. I had this RPM limiter high enough earlier when I was playing with the game. 8,000. Interesting. What do we have? 370 horsepower. Well, that's not very good. Let's have some VVT. And let's have a nice sporty cam profile like that. Something like that. Now we should have a Lamborghini V10. Just give it a run. That even sounds the part. We can change our crank out. Once we turn the quality up on these things, can we rev it higher? Quality up on everything. Quality. Quality. What does that actually do for us? Oh yeah, that gives us some more power. How about we increase our limiter now? Let's have a 10,000 RPM engine. Let's have our maximum cam profile up here. Can we even go higher on here? 12:1 compression, we've got good fuel. Where's our ignition timing at? Already maxed. There we go, we've got a 760 horsepower V10. A little bit of exhaust restriction now. We go bigger on the bore. Up to a point. 3.5 inch system. Take the boxes out. Nope. Pretty much maxed out there on an 8. So what happens when we boost it? Turbocharger. Intercooler. Intercooler good for 1,000 horsepower. Biggest turbo you do. AR ratio. Maximum boost will do half a bar of boost. Bring our compression ratio down. That looks good. We might need to richen our air fuel ratio up to suit boost. And let's have a bit more boost. Let's have 0.8 bar. Now we're starting to max out the turbo and it's starting to arc over. What happens if we go big on the intercooler? There we go. And how about we go 4 inch on the exhaust? 4 inch exhaust. We have our 1,000 horsepower V10. So there we go. It's a fun little game. It definitely teaches you a good few principles about engine tuning, the effects of timing, the effects of fueling, the effects of geometries of your engine, your cam profiles, your exhaust diameter. It teaches you about peak power figures, but also air under the curve. It's not going to teach you how to tune a car properly, but it's certainly going to get you into the basics of what all the different components of an engine do, how modifying them affects things, and it's also a bit of fun. Alright, I hope you found that useful.